Well, we have a new program at the county which is called Alternative Futures, and I'm pleased to be able to talk about that and to ask citizens for help. What we're doing is looking at a different means, a non-traditional way of addressing what we think are some of the most severe financial constraints that Alachua County has ever seen. Again, we live in a time which some people talk about it being a time of a perpetual crisis, fiscal crisis. And as a bellwether state, many people know that Florida, Texas, California are states that tend to lead in all sorts of issues, economic issues, social issues. And unfortunately, we're some of the hardest hit states with the current recession and the impact of foreclosures. And so we're feeling a very drastic economic impacts here in the state and in Alachua County, although Alachua County is more fortunate than many places. What Alternative Futures is a way of soliciting ideas and suggestions for doing some minor and major changes to the way we provide services to citizens. We've asked our department directors first back in July in a budget announcement that I made that we were going to embark on this process to look at fundamental ways we can change the nature that we deliver services to citizens. Well, one of the issues that we dealt with in the budget back in July when I had submit the annual budget was the fact of local budgets for cities and counties have to be balanced, and that was very difficult this year. We're facing a number of issues that have probably compounded to be as significant as any budget year we've ever experienced. Those issues are obviously reflected in paper headlines every day, but they're things like the tremendous deficit currently in the state budget that's going to require the state to look at reducing programs and passing programs on to us. We're in the midst of a national recession. Now, at the time in July, it didn't look as negative as it does now, but certainly since September and October, as we've had massive foreclosures and bank failures, it's created a real issue for local governments, and Alachua County is certainly one of those governments that's having to deal with a probably the most stressful financial situation we've had in many years. At the state level, the issue is, as you know, originally the state legislature was attempting to do tax reform or tax relief efforts. That came about through in the legislative changes that basically locked in our budget revenues, and that was an effort to try to reduce property tax, which was increasing and becoming a major issue throughout the state. So there was a legislative act by the state legislature. That was followed with Amendment 1, which was a referendum that was on the ballot that was approved statewide. And that again reduced our revenues. Now, property tax revenues, which both of those dealt with, is the major stream of revenue that we have coming into Alachua County and most local governments. And so with that being curtailed by those two acts, we were facing a different fiscal reality before the recession ever started. We had hoped that we would be able to make major community improvements using our existing resources and streams of revenue, and bonding where necessary in order to make those improvements in the community. Between the legislative actions and Amendment 1 and this recession, we just simply can't do that. Traditionally, when cities, and there's economic cycles, and cities and counties have to be prepared for those, but typically when you go through a downturn, you have to resort to some issues of looking at across-the-board cuts or targeted cuts in certain programs. We tend to try to freeze positions, which is a way of, without layoffs, a way of emptying out positions slowly over time by people leaving. And in government, a government the size of Alachua County, for example, the first year we did that, we were able to empty out 34 positions. So you can do that over time, and that's relatively it's a painless way from the standpoint of your employees. Another way we've had to deal with that is basically through reducing the amount of our payroll, which means we've not been giving raises. We've gone to annual bonuses the last 2 years. This last year, county employees received a $500 bonus. Now, that was all that was given. It's a cash payment that's given one time a year right before the holidays, and there are no additional step increases. So that is obviously an issue. We're in a competitive area. Our surrounding jurisdictions are continuing to give, for example, 5% or 2% in some cases, but there are annual built-in salary increases. So if you take the issue of freezing positions and having long-term vacancies and the issue of cutting back personnel in terms of the cost of salaries, you end up with a situation where after you reduce training and travel and those things that we have done, reduction of vehicles, As you go through that, you get to a situation where you have a much leaner organization, but it's also it's not as healthy as it was, nor is it as sustainable over the long term. Alternative Futures is giving an opportunity for us to look at the kind of future we want to have. And on an individual department basis, what I've asked departments and divisions and our units of operating government here is to take this time, which has been throughout the fall, to prepare and look at individual programs or processes or the way we do business that we could alter to create a different future. Now, if you look at a very constricted, restrained future of layoffs and diminishing staff resources and continuing burdens of programs, at some point you're faced with, you just can't go on with death by a thousand cuts. You have to look at what kind of major change you're going to make. So the first place you look for that is your own internal resources. We have people that know our programs. We have people that know what they would really like to be doing in terms of programs versus what perhaps history and a series of decisions have ended up requiring us to do. And there's different delivery mechanisms. So what we're asking our departments and divisions to do is take this opportunity to look and come back with us in January for a submission to our board in February of some major changes that we could take in the way we implement services and the kind of services that we implement in Alachua County. We just feel this is a time to be creative, to be innovative, to be open to change, and be very transparent about what we're doing. The main thing is there's no idea that's too small or no idea that's too large that couldn't lead to a positive change for us. Or let's face it, the bottom line is if we can provide good service and reduce people's taxes, that would be something I think everybody would agree would be a positive thing to do. The other side of that is if we do not have the resources to provide government services, people are going to have to understand that those services will change. We live in a community that has a tremendous resource of people, people in the academic community at the University of Florida and at Santa Fe College, people within even our high school and local educational realm, people in agriculture, people in manufacturing, people in the business community. We are a very blessed community from the talented resources that we have here. And so what we're doing, we're calling on those people and the talented resources to help us by suggesting, again, alternative futures, ideas that they see, ideas about how we can change our service delivery, ideas about how we might perhaps gain more revenue, ideas about how we could provide services in a different manner or perhaps not provide a service at all. In order to help citizens get in touch with us with their ideas about alternative futures, we have set up an email site that people can respond to by email. It's called alternativefutures@alachuacounty.us, and people can see that on the screen. And if you email any kind of comment about how we can improve our service, what the different way we might provide a service or what service we should not be providing or things we should consider, if you will email that, we will get a list of those ideas and we'll collect them from not only our own staff and our employees but the public, and we'll submit those to the county commission and we'll review those. That's one way you can do that electronically. Now, I know everybody's not digital, so some people watching may just like to say, well, I'd just like to send you a letter. That's fine. We have some forms that are around. They're available in libraries. They're also, you can pull one off our internet site, but you can also just simply write a letter, and any letter that's written with an envelope that says Alternative Futures will come into our operations area where we're putting this together in my office, and we will use any written comment. You can also phone those in, but we prefer to have them in writing. Now, if you wish to make those anonymous, that's fine. However, there are some events coming up, and we would like to know if somebody gives a good idea, we would like to give them credit for that. We would also like to potentially invite them to some other meetings where we talk about this in more depth. So if you want to be anonymous, that's fine. This is America. Nobody's going to come get you. But if you got a good idea, we would like to give credit for that. And also, we'd like to invite you to some additional items. We're probably going to be setting up some forums in the future to bring some of these people together to talk about these ideas and others. We'd really like to try to put a time frame of about mid-January or January 15th. If people would make this a priority in order to give those comments, again, by email or by letter, if they would do that to Alternative Futures and do it by January 15th, that'll help us compile this list so that we can get it to the county commission to discuss in roughly February. But we're really trying to solicit your input, and that's what Alternative Futures is all about.
When it comes down to what's important, it's the basics: family, health, a roof over your head, enough to eat. Thank goodness for the USDA food stamp program. It's there to help us feed our family, give our children the good nutrition they need and deserve for better health. And with the electronic benefit card, it's easier than ever. Even if you're working, you can still be eligible. I didn't know until I called. Call now to find out if you qualify.